One.
This is part one of a two-part talk on Peter Graham's On the Shoulders of Giants for brass band. Part two can be found on www.archive.org. And if you type in the name Peter Graham or my name Stephen Arthur Allen, it should take you to the link, and I've tried to write it in the box just over there to my left. You're right. A few things about the piece by way of introduction. I think this piece raises very interesting questions about the nature of the subconscious and the degree to which an artist is aware of the total picture of what they're doing when they're actually creating a work of art. On the surface, the piece is a tribute to American brass players, the giants upon whose shoulders the modern generation of great brass players really stand. The first movement is a tribute to the Chicago Symphony Orchestra brass section, which built their reputation on Bruckner's Eighth Symphony and romantic literature like that, the symphonies of Mahler. And the subtitle of that Bruckner Eighth Symphony, the Apocalyptic, I think is a clue actually to this sort of second meaning of the piece. The second movement has a number of solos in it. A tribute to Miles Davis on flugelhorn and a tribute to Tommy Dorsey on trombone, and those melodies are based on the spiritual Steal Away to Jesus, which incidentally bears a comparison with the Bruckner quotation that opens the first movement. The Bruckner melody, dum da dum dum da dum da dum da dum da dum da dum da dum, and the spiritual steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. So the Bruckner in effect is a kind of a minor distortion of that spiritual, and that minor trajectory, very, very different incidentally to how it finishes the Bruckner Eighth Symphony. In this case, in this brass band piece by Peter Graham, points towards the negative, sudden ending that we get in the last movement. The last movement is a tribute to the soloists from the Sousa Band, again another 19th century tradition. The soloists in this case being Herbert L. Clark, the Southern Cross and the Debutante being the two solos referenced, Arthur Pryor, trombonist, the Bluebells of Scotland, and Simone Mantia, the euphonium player, Believe Me If All Those Endearing Young Charms. And the music from the first movement, the busy, bustling music, the frantic music, that is so much like modern life. We're running around with lots of activity, but are we really getting anywhere? This piece of music seems to suggest that all that activity really leads us nowhere. And in fact, out of those florid solos from the Sousa Band period, especially Believe Me If All Those Endearing Young Charms, we hear this kind of cancerous disease spread through the band until the climactic return of the great tune from the second movement. But then suddenly at the very end, it's as though the rug's being pulled out from under us, as there's this reference to the conclusion of Sir Arthur Bliss's ballet Checkmate in the concluding chords, which Peter Graham refers to as, sounds like the footsteps of a giant. And of course this could be, on the one hand, the brass giants that have been celebrated on the one level of this piece, but also it could refer to the footsteps of Christ, Malachi 4:3, talking about the righteous trampling to ashes the wicked under their feet, a rather fearsome prophecy about judgment. And again, we think of Arthur Bliss's ballet Checkmate, 1936, the Spanish Civil War leading into the rise of Hitler, Mussolini and the Second World War. We could even say in some respects, perhaps this piece is a piece of prophecy about our current times, with the greed and egotism and all the disasters that we're seeing going on in contemporary civilization. Well, that's the introduction, and if you have time, I'd encourage you to proceed now to www.archive.org to see part two.